MBR, nothing but rants, show where I find topics that I'm rather passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about.
Nothing but rants.
Hot takes.
3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. You know Brooks finna cook, let him rant. Try to do it like us, but you can't. Stay the young, going dumb with the chance. Big plays lead to even bigger fans. What's up? What's the word? What's the play? What we talking about? On the scene with the team, yeah, we popping out. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. What it is, what it ain't, what's happening? We gon' hit you with the stats and the facts, man. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Hey, shout it end zone dancing. We about to start it up, this the anthem. That right, big rings got me handsome. Hold 'em up like we came for the ransom. I'm in the field, 2-minute drill. Highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control. Buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here, back to back, Nat chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care, come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Hey. Yeah.
I ain't got no problem with it. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off. No, come find me. No, come find me. Listen to the words. Come find me. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off.
I ain't hard guy to find. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off. I'll tell you what, during the offseason, we are indeed not a very hard channel to find, Jonathan. It's one of those things where we're like, you know what? Everybody else is going to take some time off. Not this channel, even though we did kind of take a week off last week. But hey, let's not talk about that. We are back here live on a Wednesday for our typical offseason Wednesday Q&A session. Also might fire up a little bit of NCAA later on in this broadcast. But I wanted to start today's broadcast, Jonathan, with something that the internet loves, which is tier talk. If you're not into tier talk, why are you even on the internet looking at college football content, honestly?
I mean, it's got to be like the easiest off-season content too, of like, here's 3 or 4 tiers. We're going to rank them and put them in a tier. Some people might agree. Majority of people probably going to disagree. It's a great conversation to have.
Don't worry. We will get to the hard-hitting questions like whether or not mayonnaise on a meatball sandwich is indeed acceptable in just a minute. But first, let's go to the board and let's break down these tiers, how we decided. We cut Christian Kirby completely out of the conversation here. It's just me and you.
Yeah.
We're going to tier talk this sucker on a Wednesday right here on the Film Guy Network. Glad you guys could be here today. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Let's head over to the board and let's start talking some tiers. All right. So I separated these into 4, or I should say we separated these into 4 tiers of the SEC here in February. Now, these are not set in stone. We reserve the right to change our opinions on these things. And before the season actually starts, I want to make sure our microphone's nice and good to go. All right, so here are our 4 tiers. Tier number 1 is the tier of football teams that should enter the season with expectations to be in Atlanta come December. So we'll give you that tier 1. Tier 2, not insane to see you in Atlanta in September, or rather in December. Tier number 3, can you at least be interesting? Can you be one of these football teams looking up later on in the year? It's like, hey, we got so-and-so coming into town. Don't be sleeping on so-and-so. They're a little bit interesting this year in the SEC. Tier number 4, can you survive? All right, can you survive in that tier number 4? Let's talk about it, Jonathan. Tier number 1, these are the football teams entering 2025 in this conference that should have some type of standard of, we expect to be in Atlanta in December competing for an SEC championship. Who are those football teams, Jonathan?
Well, I think the easy one to start with would be Georgia.
Oh, a little homer bias there, no?
I just think that's a fan base expectation right there.
Right? It is 100% a fan base expectation. It's a building standard, right? We expect to be competing for an SEC championship. By the way, roster still really, really blue chip heavy. I haven't seen the blue chip ratio numbers come out yet entering next year, but an extremely talented roster. We will put UGA right there in tier 1. Now, the other football team, for the very exact same reasons in terms of roster acquisition over the last 3 or 4 years and recency bias, Texas is one of these football teams entering next year, Jonathan, certainly expects to be in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Arch Manning as a starting quarterback, you brought back another young weapon and Orion Wingo. You added some other young weapons as well. Really, the big questions are interior defensive line. Can that replicate kind of what they did last year? And some other questions as well, but still a really good roster.
Is it fair to question just how truly great Arch Manning is going to be?
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Right? I mean, everyone's kind of like already stamping him as this guy. I am of the belief that there were certain football games over the last 2 years that if Arch Manning were doing, this guy's going to be the next great Manning thing in practice over the last 2 years, maybe they would have had a propensity to do something other than just put him in there to run the football on 4th and short.
Well, I think too, like as injured as Quinn Ewers was over his career at Texas, like part of me thinks that if Arch Manning was indeed like just right on his heels or kind of taking over the position, I think they might have even had an inkling to say, we're just going to ride with Arch for a little bit and see if this thing catches fire. But they never did that. They continued to go back to Quinn. There's other reasons as to why, maybe NIL money, things like that, but still interesting to me.
NIL money, leadership within the building. We don't really know what the deal is. I mean, obviously the coaching staff believed in Quinn Ewers almost to a fault to some extent. Some Texas fans might believe. Now, this is the team. Now, some of these teams are going to be on the verge of some of these tiers, like this next team we want to talk about right here. Because of what people expect them to have in terms of a returning starter at the quarterback position, there is a lot of anticipation and hype for the season that LSU might have this year out in Baton Rouge, Jonathan.
And I really do think that this is where the drop-off is in Tier 1, because when you say LSU, SEC title contenders, I say I could see it happening, but a good number of questions on that roster. Like, you got some big returning players. Like we talked about the other night in their to-do list, like the secondary, that's been kind of a problem. You don't have one of these explosive weapons that you typically have at wide receiver like LSU does. Can you figure out something in the run game? Is Garrett Nussmeier going to be a heart rate monitor at the quarterback position? We just don't know. But if some of those problems get solved, then absolutely.
Year 4 of Harold Perkins.
Yeah.
Can it finally happen again, right? Can it finally actually look like what it looked like as a true freshman? 3rd year now being a full off-ball linebacker. Paired him up there with Whit Weeks. That's the strength of their defense right about now entering 2025. Tremendous amounts of questions on the defensive line, edge rushing included, and you mentioned the defensive backfield. Not the LSU standard at wide receiver either at this point, but they did make some additions in the offseason at the wide receiver position. But most of that hype and anticipation revolves solely around Garrett Nussmeier's performance entering 2025. All right, let's go on to tier number 2. Okay, tier number 2. Now, these are the football teams that if they are in Atlanta come December, not going to be shocked, not predicting it, but certainly believe they have a chance to enter into that conversation. I'm going to start with Alabama right here, okay? A relatively tough schedule as everyone has in the SEC this year. We assume it's going to be Ty Simpson. Assume it's going to be Ty Simpson. I do believe there has been kind of a recency bias with Austin Mack because of Ryan Grubb coming back over and being the offensive coordinator, but you believe they're probably going to roll with Simpson in 2025.
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing that makes Alabama one of these teams is there's a lot of things that feels like it's going in a positive direction for them, like a change at quarterback that fits the mold of Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb's offense that they've had in years prior. Bringing back Ryan Grubb is certainly a positive addition for them. Brought back some big players on defense as well. You lose Jahad Campbell, but still some really good players.
And Deontay Lawson and more.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of old veterans.
Ryan Williams going into his sophomore year, so still some really good football players all around.
Could see an 18-year-old pop. Maybe for Ryan Williams, finally an adult, a little grown man pop for Ryan Williams. All right, Tennessee in this mix in tier 2 as well, Jonathan. I was on the verge going into the offseason of kind of making myself believe that Tennessee might be the team to maybe make an SEC run. But that was under the impression that they were going to go out and make tons of moves this offseason via the transfer portal. And they lost football players as opposed to adding on to this roster. Just thoughts on what Tennessee failed to do this offseason.
Yeah, they're kind of known as one of these teams that don't shy away from spending, whether it be in the transfer portal. They do it every year at the quarterback position. It seems like they got Nico, they got
George McIntyre, following Faison Brandon.
I mean, they've continued to get those guys, but the transfer portal just really didn't do much. They got a running back that from Duke that seems like he's going to be a contributor. Also bring back some 2 key guys at the running back position despite losing Dylan Sampson. But the weapons, don't really know. They were very up and down last year. Maybe Mike Matthews has a year 2 jump, and he's going to have to if they're going to be as good as they were on offense a couple years ago. Defense, though, that continues to be the strong point for me about Tennessee, but you also get big guys there.
Look, they're dependent upon a bunch of blue chippers that they invested in on the high school recruiting rankings from several classes ago. Jordan Ross is the guy that they expect to replace some of that James Pierce ability. Obviously, Anthony Joseph's coming back on this roster as well, number 19 out of North Cobb here in the state of Georgia. A really talented football player that almost took playing time away from James Pierce last year. He was so good. So they're really loaded up. You mentioned Mike Matthews, need a lot of production out of him this year. Very confusing as to why he wasn't on the field a lot last year with how banged up they were at wide receiver. Another name that they're obviously, I would imagine, expecting to play pretty early on, 5-star David Sanders, the offensive tackle out of Providence Day out there in North Carolina. So Tennessee right here in tier 2, a disappointing tier 2 team for me. I thought they were going to be ready. I mean, we opened up this season with, hey, 2024 looking okay. 2025 Tennessee, watch out. I don't feel that way about them, man. I felt like the last 12 months we didn't do as much as we possibly could have.
Feels like you're almost, which of course this is just off-season talk, but it does kind of feel like right now you might be wasting your final year of Nico.
We assume it is going to be the final year of Nico moving forward. So we'll get into that discussion as the offseason continues. I put South Carolina in this mix, Jonathan, as a tier 2 football team. Hell, I thought they were a tier 3 football team last year. Can you make it exciting this year? Is, hey, wouldn't be surprised if you make a run into late December in the SEC championship game.
I mean, they have everything that you would want as one of these tier 2 teams in the SEC of young playmakers. You got Dylan Stewart going into year 2, who is phenomenal as a freshman. Lenore Sellers going into year 2, who is great. Nick Harbor seems to be coming into his own as a wide receiver. They finally figured out how to use him. The change of offensive coordinator, maybe that puts up some red flags, but they've been doing this at such a regular rate. I don't even know if you could call that a big question for them. And
honestly, it's a smooth as transition as you possibly could have. It's Mike Shula, who was on the roster or on the staff last year as an offensive analyst, making about 350 racks. Going to be making about 1.5 this year to be the OC and the play caller. A very vast background as well with mobile and athletic quarterbacks like a Lenore Sellers. I'm not saying Lenore Sellers is Cam Newton, but I'm saying there are things that you do as an offense with Cam Newton that you might be able to do with Lenore Sellers as well. So, yeah, smooth transition there. Now, this is where I start having question marks again on the back end of tier 2, no different than we did with tier 1 here with LSU. Where does a football program like Texas A&M land on this right here?
I honestly have no idea. I don't know where I would put Texas A&M. I guess you put them at tier 2 because it feels like maybe they exceeded some expectations in year 1 under Elko. Marcel Reed now kind of your guy, so that maybe you can get some continuity there. But they continue to feel like a team that's just kind of pushing pieces together, seeing if they fit. Don't really know if they're going to fit. And a very up and down football team last year as well. So are they going to go in one direction or are they going to go in the other? Kind of hard to tell.
So are we good kind of holding off right now on the rest of tier 2 and seeing if any of these other teams kind of fit in the mold right here, Jonathan, like an Ole Miss, a Florida, an Oklahoma, and Auburn. Does anybody find their way into tier 2? I know Auburn's got a relatively favorable schedule this year. A lot of anticipation that they might be able to win 9-10 games with their schedule. I just don't know if I'm ready to buy it right now.
Yeah, I don't think I would be either.
You buying Jackson Arnold stock?
No.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. You buying freshman Deuce Knight stock?
No, probably
I'm
not.
buying the wide receiver core at
for
Auburn.
sure.
Might be one of the best in the country, honestly, with Cam Coleman, and obviously added Nick Singleton. And there was another freshman that played really, really well from them last year as well. A little slot receiver, about 5'11", real jittery type dude. I think he wore number 3 for them. Really good football player, really young, promising wide receiver weapons out there at Auburn. But it's going to Perry Thompson. It's going to be about the quarterback play at Auburn. I think I'm good not forcing ourselves into adding one of these other teams into tier 2 and moving on into tier 3, which is where we have programs like Texas A&M. It's where we have programs like Ole Miss, right? These are football teams. Hey, can you make it interesting every single week? Are you a tough matchup on the slate for that opponent, right? Let's add Mizzou into this list as well right here in tier 3, even though if you told me Mizzou had a tier 4 year this year, I wouldn't be surprised. The schedule is terrible, though. Mm-hmm. They get that year 2 of that SEC crossover schedule for those guys. All right, I'll put Florida here in tier 3, and I am really, really fighting myself predicting like a 9-win season for Florida this year. I'm really fighting it because you know how I feel about DJ Lagway, mm-hmm. But what's keeping me back? Boy Billy continuing to be OC. Don't necessarily understand the decision there. Never really have. All right, adding Oklahoma into this mix as well. I think with Mateer this year, Jonathan, we could look up on Saturdays and find Oklahoma putting some teams in some sweats.
Yeah, they did it last year. It's really just boils down to the offense for them. If they can get anything going there and find something so they can just kind of – I mean, you don't even have to be a really great offense. Like if you play as good of defense as you did last year as Oklahoma did, then you can be just kind of like good at offense. Like you could maybe be averaging 34 points per game, and you could probably be an 8-win team in the SEC. But that seems like it's a mile away for them right now to do that offensively.
And I believe, my memory serves me correctly, they brought the OC over from Washington State as well. Will you look that up for me?
Yeah.
I think there's a transition almost like what Vandy did last year with Pavia, where they hired the OC from UNLV or wherever my man's was at, New Mexico State, and then bring in Pavia as well to run the offense. Is that correct?
Yeah, Ben Arbuckle.
Ben Arbuckle, the OC at Oklahoma, OC at Washington State last year with Mateer. Now, Mateer went for about 4,000 yards total, right? Didn't he go for about 3,400, 600 yards rushing?
Yeah, he did.
Something like that?
As much as I've pumped up Mateer, though, I do have my reservations about him because, I mean, over at Washington State, I think he completed 63% of his passes.
Is he turnover prone too?
I don't know that he didn't really turn the ball over that much, but just the fact that we weren't really completing at a high percentage at Washington State. Now we're going to go into a conference where windows are probably going to be even tighter. I don't know if he's going to be one of these explosive guys in the SEC. I just kind of would push back a little bit. Maybe don't expect like this massive outbreak for him. As big of a fan of him as I am.
All right, let's see what kind of color we can get here for tier 4. What about like a poo brown here for tier 4? All right, tier 4. These are the football teams entering 2025 that I'm telling you right now as a fan base, you just got to work on surviving. All right, survive week to week. Scrap your way to a 7-5 schedule. Hopefully we can survive into 2026 as a football coach, particularly. A lot of these teams that we're going to talk about in this tier 4, starting with Arkansas. It's a big survive year for Sammy the Pit Boss out there in Little Rock.
Feels like it's always that.
Yeah, feels like it's always a just find a way to survive. Vandy, you're back down here as well in that tier 4 football team. I don't know how many different guys they lost. I would assume it's going to look like a completely different Vanderbilt roster. It reminds me almost of what Mel Tucker had success with at Michigan State year 1. It's like, and I know it's year 2 or 3 for Clark Lee up there last year was, but it was very much a different approach. We're going to bring in a whole bunch of transfers. We're going to turn this roster over. We're going to give it a run with some guys that maybe other teams passed on or other teams overlooked or whatever it was. They had a tremendous amount of success with Pavia coming back this year without the tight end and without some offensive line weapons as well. So they had not only the NFL plunder their roster, but they also had other, Power 5 football teams come out. Florida State stole a left tackle from them. So there's a couple of losses on Vandy's roster as well. I got Kentucky in this mix. You know what? I don't care how good Incarnate Ward did that one time with Cam Ward. I ain't buying Zach Calzada stock. You can't force feed me Zach Calzada stock.
Zach Calzada should have retired after he beat Alabama at Texas A&M. Like, that was the peak of your career. It was never going to get any better than that. You should just, we good, man. I'll be a legend for the rest of my life.
About 13% of this chat that just said in their mind, oh, shit, that's right. Calzada did beat Alabama at A&M 4 years ago. So, yeah, I think that was COVID season.
Yeah, I think it was.
Honestly. It's been a minute since Calzada's actually played meaningful football games. And, of course, the old Bulldogs down here in Mississippi State. Jeff Levy, you got to survive into year 3 of that contract, man. You have another year where we're getting dubbed up at home against Toledo. We might be out as an OC again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Never in my life, though, did I think that there would be people in our chat defending Vanderbilt as a non-tier 4 team. That's kind of shocking.
That's where we got smoke?
Yeah, people are saying we got smoke for that one, and then we got a little bit of smoke for actually Ole Miss being a tier 3 team. I would just say, though, that I feel like everybody going into last season was saying that this is just a 1-year window for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Like, Ole Miss has consistently been one of these tier 3 teams of they might go 8-4. The ceiling might be 10-2 for them. I mean, they lost a lot of guys in the NFL. The defensive line, as great as they were, don't really have as much production returning. They have a new quarterback coming in. Like, I feel like that is a tier 3 team. I
felt like Lane used last year's football team and transfer portal additions to actually build some type of substantive recruiting base in the high school ranks. I thought it was, let's be good in 2024 so we can be sustainably good 2026, 2027, 2028, because we're actually starting to recruit really well. I believe they signed a top 10 class in 2025 off of this past year. Flipped a massive wide receiver commit from Alabama. They did a really, really good job in 2025 closing out. Do we have a class ranking on that?
They finished 16th.
Okay, so not as good as I thought, honestly. But that's even kind of more where we're at. They didn't do a bunch this offseason in the transfer portal market. They like I said, kind of moved more towards signing a plethora of high school kids, not necessarily doing the Wolfside 5 high school kids and 25 transfer portal guys. It looked more like 20 and 10 kind of in the stagger of high school to transfers.
Yeah, I think more so last year for Ole Miss, it was we got one more year of Jackson Dart and a few other guys on our roster. Let's try and see if we can make something shake there. And honestly, it wasn't a bad idea considering like what the landscape of the SEC was last year. Like you had some of your top teams that were very gettable. I mean, they got Georgia at home last year. They got the dub there. You just didn't take care of business against the teams you absolutely should have, like Kentucky at home earlier in the season. Like you do that, you're a playoff team. I think it's just kind of resetting back to the typical Lane Kiffin Ole Miss standard.
But do you remember where you were during the Austin Simmons drive of 2024 against Georgia?
I do.
I know where I was. I was sitting there going, ain't no way this dude's doing this right now. Yeah. So maybe we have a lot of that from Austin Simmons this year. I think he's an uber talented football player.
Absolutely.
I think the offense is awesome. Caden Lee coming back as a 700-yard plus receiver. So they got some weapons out there at Ole Miss as they usually do. There's our tier talk for the day. Let's go back to the desk right quick and start hammering some of these here questions. Appreciate you guys starting to submit those. If you couldn't tell, that's what we were trying to get going right now, trying to load up those questions in the chat. Now, let's start hammering. Don't get too anxious on switching over boards. Cameras, because I can guarantee you we're headed back to the board pretty quickly with Cody McCormick's question right here. Hopped in 3 minutes early into the chat to make sure he was the first one on the board. Can you draw up the difference between duo and inside zone in your opinion? I know this is a controversial topic among coaches, so I want to know if I'm right in my understanding. Appreciate the question, Cody. Let's go back to the board and have a general conversation about this. All right, so I am of the belief, like Cody, that this is one of these hot topic button issues in the world of college football and in the world of football in general, okay? How we go about calling things and how we do things differently across the board. It's one of these things I've talked about here on this network previously. How I talk things is how I would teach them if I were in a room. Okay, so if you're a coach sitting at home right now and I draw up duo or I draw up inside zone or I draw up split zone here and you think, that ain't the way we call it, that's fine, okay? I might be wrong in your mind. This is how we teach it. I am of the belief that if you are teaching football concepts, consistency is the primary point of concern. As long as you're calling the same thing over and over again, then your audience or your players or whoever it is might be able to retain it at a higher rate. That's education, by the way. That's teaching. Okay, teach what you want, teach it how you want, but be consistent with it. Okay, so let's talk about inside zone and the difference between inside zone and what he talked about with duo. All right, duo to me, and the difference between inside zone and duo is a mic identification discussion and additional tight ends and general angle and launch point and key, if you will, for the running back. Let's talk about inside zone first against a standard 3-4 front, or standard 4-2 front right here. All right, so we walk to the line of scrimmage. We got inside zone left called. All right, so we're trying to work these combinations up to the mic right here. We're going to saw off up to the backside inside linebacker. We're probably going to read this backside defensive end, not block him. Okay, that is inside zone. And if we were walking to the line of scrimmage, we're going to call Mike. All right, if he's wearing 52 right here, we're going to go Mike 52. Basically telling everybody that that's where our combination is working. We're working to the front side Mike. All right, so we're going to press this first combination, and we're trying to cut off of that initial block and double team up to the mic. That is inside zone. Now, something we talk about on this network, if you don't have a rushing threat at the quarterback position, you're going to have to occupy that backside defensive end, right? You're going to have to do something to take his eyes or at least account for him. Most teams that don't have rushing quarterbacks will run what we call split zone. Okay, they will run inside zone to the left. They will take that H-back and they will slam him inside hip of that defensive end so he can't flow down and pursue down to the back, all right? If we don't have a rushing quarterback at the quarterback position. All right, now let's talk about duo. Duo has become a lot more frequently ran in college football. It's really, really ran at a high level at the NFL level. In my opinion, the only difference between inside zone and duo is mic identification. On inside zone, the combinations are working to the front side inside linebacker. On duo, we are working to the backside inside linebacker most of the time using tight ends attached. Okay, this is how most teams are doing it nowadays. Penn State did this against Notre Dame. Georgia tried to do this against Notre Dame, but got absolutely cooked. We will hop into 12 personnel, all right, which will more than likely force the defense to play some type of 50 front, right? They're going to give us a zero. Should put an in there. A 0, 2 3s, maybe some stand-up 7s right here, are some outside defensive ends out here. Okay, let's put an E right there so we don't get somebody hopping in here. But that's not a 7 technique. All right, we got another end out here. All right, it's going to force you into some type of 50 front with a mic and a will, playing 7 guys for our 7 guys. Obviously, we've got a quarterback and we've got a running back. Now, I told you, duo working more towards the backside inside linebacker as opposed to the front side inside linebacker. On inside zone, we were calling Mike 52, right? We're going to walk up here, and instead of calling Mike 52, we're actually going to call Mike Willie. Okay, we're going to call Mike Willie. Everybody on the front side is going to ISO out. We're going to double team all the way to the mic here. All right, and we are trying to insert into that backside B gap, all right, and run duo. All right, we're really just trying to create flow to one direction and get some type of seal, all right, from those 2 tight ends right there, creating a crease off the backside. Difference between inside zone and duo. By the way, both zone concepts. So now I'm really blowing your mind. All right, both zone concepts. There you go. Hope I did a decent enough job explaining that. All right, is mayo acceptable on a meatball sub? Absolutely not, Jonathan. You're a crazy person.
Well, I am not someone that does this, but the only reason why I asked this question is because I saw people debating it on a Twitter thread of one of those, what's the most diabolical sandwich orders you guys have ever seen? And someone said mayo on a meatball sub. And there are people apparently that regularly do this because it cuts down the acidity of the tomato sauce on a meatball sub.
You know, every day I find that there are more people who are publicly accepting of being a lunatic. So there's that. Halim Youssef hops in with a super chat saying, can you please do a Will Howard draft video? Man, you want me to look stupid, huh? No, I'm just kidding. Look, we tried a real good effort at doing the NFL draft series here on this network. You guys didn't watch it. You guys didn't watch it at all. And that takes a lot of time. So we're going to sit here and goof off for the next 2 hours. And we're going to have about 5,000 people watch this.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 1,500 people watch me break down Shador Sanders. Like 1,600 people watch me break down Cam Ward. Yeah, I would love to do a Will Howard film study. I love doing film studies. I do. I love getting up on the board talking ball. But if you guys aren't going to watch them, it's a business. It's a bottom line business, man. So, yeah, Halim, maybe that's honestly why we opened up Patreon in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there's clearly a market for the 500 people that actually want to watch this. And the other 2,000 people on YouTube or 20,000 people aren't going to watch this. So I'll put it behind a paywall and we'll do that. And I don't feel like doing that anymore, hiding the content. If we're going to do the content, we're going to put it out, but you guys aren't watching it. So it's a difficult decision over here for us. Let's continue here. If you want to attract raccoons to your house, put an open can of sardines on the porch. Why would we want to attract
I don't think
such
would.
animals to our house?
I don't buy sardines either. So
Chat's not really hammering the cues here on the Q&A. That's on us. Let's see here. Oh, Lawson's staying at Alabama? How's that possible?
I didn't know that.
Will you look that up for me? Deontay Lawson apparently coming back to Alabama. He must have got an additional year from the NCAA. So that's nice, I guess. I mean, he's a good football player. By the way, way too good on College Football 25. Deontay Lawson might as well be the best defensive player on that damn video game. He's insane. So yeah, I guess really good for Alabama if he's coming back.
Yeah, it's just that he will be returning for 2025. I guess last year he was a redshirt junior.
I've been playing a lot of football. Zach Calzada off the milk carton. Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed, off the milk carton. We have found him. He is in Lexington, Kentucky. Point of the attack is second level right, my guy. Yes, correct. Let's see here. Am I missing any right here, Jonathan?
I don't think so.
Pineapples on pizza? I would. I do.
I love pineapple on pizza.
I think the best like order pizza, like takeout pizza, is a thin crust Hawaiian from either Papa John's or Domino's. Give me that right there.
Yeah, thin crust is good for certain pizzas. Pineapple is certainly one of them.
Because you don't want too much sauce and cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
And breading. I want that thin crust with the pineapple and the Canadian bacon, which is a fancy way of saying ham. What's up with the Canadians on that?
I don't know. I just want to be different, I guess.
Just trying to be different.
Shocker.
Question. Nose over toes occurs during these three problems or others. 1, improper training. 2, leaning too hard in fear of not being strong enough. 3, fear of not reaching a fast opponent. So the first three, it's a great point right here, Marion Campbell. We talk about this all the time, and let's give a visual representation just for the hilarity of it, of what nose over toes looks like. Okay. So anytime, are we focused yet?
No. Now we are.
All right. Anytime. Oh, well, we're fuzzy. You guys get it though. Anytime as a blocker, we take our nose and we put it over our toes, we're in a compromised position. We are more than likely, there we go. We are more than likely going to fall over, right? Because our head and our body weight is over our midpoint of our body, our equilibrium, aka our core. Our core holds us tight. So we want to always have a good, we always want to have a good body lean. We never want to be over our toes. Now, Marion asked a good question. Why does this happen? It's a variety of reasons, most of which you let off with at the start, right? Improper training. I wouldn't say improper training, but the improper training leads to your next points, right? Leaning too hard in fear of not being strong enough. Why are we not strong enough? We didn't train hard enough, right? We're just not physically gifted enough to do such things. Fear of not reaching a fast opponent. Certainly, we get over our toes a little bit or over our skis, trying to be a little bit too aggressive, getting to a spot. So yes, all of those things lead to us leaning over our toes and not being a very sound football player with our blocking fundamentals. I always found it to be I am clearly not strong enough for this guy. That's the only time I felt like I was playing over my toes, when I felt like I couldn't create movement as an offensive lineman. And it happens with blockers, by the way. I kind of want my defenders to play chest over toes. I want them to play downhill. I want defenders to play with flat backs and good pad level, right? I want my offensive linemen to play with good, stern, solid cores and foundation in their mid sections of their body. The biggest indicator of that failing is when we become nose over toes. Kevin Boy says, I watch or listen to every show. Been here for you. Appreciate you, my guy. Appreciate you, my guy. This is the way to do it right here. I wonder what Roman Black's employment status looks like. My wife making fun of me. I'm over here playing college football 25 while listening to football talk. Midday on a Wednesday, you're living the dream.
You're thriving.
You are thriving, sir. So I need tips. I need points. I need trades because, yes, we're sitting here goofing off, but this is work. This is work. So we're getting after it. I am envious of my man Roman Black today. Let's see here. Why do some wide receivers have drop problems? What do you got for me, Jay Will?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it can be like it just gets into your head mentally. Like, I guess it can be something like a hitting slump. Like, you don't forget how to hit a baseball, but you just kind of get into that mode of where you can't figure it out. You can't get back in the swing of things, and it's in the back of your mind of, oh, I haven't been hitting well lately. I haven't been catching the ball, so next time this slant gets thrown at me. I think it can be that, and I think it also can just be, I don't know. I mean, that'd be my thing. I think it's more of a mental thing than anything.
Now, if you don't have natural hands, you just don't have natural hands, right? If you fight the football, okay? Like, for example, when I first saw Mike Matthews, I think I even told you, that's a safety. We do not have natural hands. We have a propensity to really fight it. And what do I mean by that? Like we're clapping the football, not catching the football, right? I go out and I watch you, and I don't watch you. I listen to you. I listen to you take warm-up reps and balls on and routes on air. If I can hear that ball slap on them hands, you do not have natural soft hands, okay? I should go out and hear nothing when I go listen to a wide receiver go through routes on air. It should feel like the ball has arrived and then just suddenly stopped without anything happening. That's what soft, natural hands look like. People who fight the football, particularly when it's in the air above our head, that's when I find that whether or not you have natural hands, right? When the ball is elevated and we have to leave the ground, do we feel like we have to put our body in front of that? Or do we feel like we can go up, attack it at its highest point with our fingertips and then snatch it down? That's what I'm looking for. Now, some of these things, some of these drops, particularly at Georgia last year, were created because we didn't trust our natural hands. We allowed balls to get in on our body. We allowed things to hit our shoulder pads, right? When we allow football to hit our shoulder pads, that thing's going to reverb. It's going to bounce. It's going to rattle. It's going to shake. It's not going to be solid in our hands and in our possession. That's what led to a lot of these drops. Like the Dylan Bell drop, buddy, you were terrified to take your hands to the football. We felt like we could just put our body in front of it. We ended up taking it right off the face mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's you not trusting your hands. And at that point in the year, it's probably because we shouldn't be trusting our hands. We done dropped 17 balls this year, coach, trying to actually be a hands catcher. So some of that stuff is probably need to fix it in the offseason. You had the best part about this is like, I'm not going to grab a shooter that's in a slump and say, hey, let's go rebuild the stroke. Like, we're not doing that in season. So yeah, there's that. Also, do you think UGA hasn't gotten a GM because they're expecting revenue sharing? Georgia has a general manager. He generally manages everything at the University of Georgia. You know what I mean? Alabama had a general manager before Courtney Morgan too. His name was Nick Saban. Now I know this is an interesting conversation that we're venturing into, but I think we're clear now. Because the NCAA has allowed you to actually have these conversations with recruits. Ain't nobody balancing Kirby Smart's budget. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody's out here telling him what he's allowed to do with his salary cap.
No.
I don't think that's how he runs his business.
No.
That we found out that dude runs the walk-on tryouts.
Yeah.
He's running the walk-on tryouts to the point where they're like, Coach, don't you have something more important to do? And coach is like, ain't nothing more important than this right here, right now. So that's why Georgia doesn't have a general manager. They already have a general manager.
He's been there since 2016.
Yeah. So, by the way, probably the way I'd be running it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's in today's world. I don't know if I would. I would like probably have somebody else.
Yeah. And also, like, the rate of player that Georgia's recruiting isn't being negotiated with by anybody other than a really, really high-powered agent.
Yeah.
Most of them are probably sharing representation with people that they're going to go try to play for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's this massive agency. I don't know if you guys know. It's called CAA, and they kind of run college football right about now. Dude by the name of Jimmy Sexton.
Yeah.
Kind of important name in college football that you should probably know if you don't already. Congrats on 2 years. Thanks, Mitch. That is officially today, February 12th.
Let's go.
2022. We are 2 years free of alcohol. So that's awesome. Let's see here. I saw one I wanted to hit on here. So would you call this guy a leaner? Is Oregon spread the best scheme in college football 2K25? What's your best offense, your favorite offense in that video game?
I'll be honest, I don't get down into the nitty-gritty like that on that game. Nah, not like that. I like for a while I was using Kansas's playbook. I thought that was a really solid one. I actually like Georgia's playbook in that one, depending on who I'm using, like what kind of system I want to run. Alabama has a fun one as well if you just want to take deep shots. So those are like the main three that I rotate through. But like I'm not out here looking through Marshall's offensive playbook and be like, ooh, they got some spicy plays in this one. So whoever you like best, that's just what you should use.
All right, this is a super chub coming from Jacob Santa Cruz. Jacob asks, difference in offense between if Gunner starts and if Puglisi starts. It's an interesting question. I don't know what the Puglisi offense is going to look like.
Yeah.
I also look, I am the biggest proponent of the guy. I think he's a tremendous football player, but I don't know that. You know what I mean? Like everything about my thought process of Ryan Puglisi is a projection.
Mm-hmm.
This is a definition of a projection. I have a 6'3", 230-ish pound football player who can make every throw in the world, is about a 4.75 runner. All right. But that's all in a vacuum. That I have no idea, guys, what he's looking like in practice. We don't. Well, all we know when we go out there and have media availability, it's routes on air. Nothing but routes on air. And if you think they're letting we think this guy's got a leg up on the competition type of leakage come out of the University of Georgia right now, you're an idiot. You have not been following how tightly lipped Georgia keeps their football program under Kirby Smart, particularly at the quarterback position.
I mean, we didn't even get to see 10 spring reps last year in the spring game because he was hurt. It's like we literally have nothing to go off of as far as Ryan Puglisi, other than he looked really good in high school. People say some good things about him. When he's out there in warm-ups, the ball looks really pretty off of his hands, like those types of things. But as far as like any sort of in-game situation, you really just have nothing to go off of.
And look, I'm not saying he is this. I think he's going to be a really, really good starter. I think he's got NFL potential, does Ryan Puglisi. But football fans, it's not just Georgia fans, it's every fan. Football fans have this propensity to watch a guy throw balls on air, and they're like, holy shit, look at this. Wow. You did it with Jaden Rashada.
Yep.
And the guy can't get on a roster right now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so we have this propensity as football fans to see routes get thrown on air and a ball come out of some dude's hands really pretty, and we're like, oh my God, he's the guy. Gunner Stockton's lost the position battle already. I saw this video from Ryan Puglisi from 18 months ago throwing routes on air up in Mass. And everybody's like, oh my God. I'm oh my God too, guys. I'm like, holy shit, look at it. It looks awesome. But that's like one of the 900 boxes we have to check to become a good starting quarterback at the next level. So we'll see. In terms of the differences in the offense, back to the question, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. Hines Ward is the wide receivers coach at Arizona State and not Georgia. It's not really a question. It's just a statement.
I guess he is kind of asking a question there, I would assume.
Why? Is that the question?
I guess, yeah.
Georgia doesn't, Kirby Smart at least, doesn't hire, let's give a guy a chance, position coaches. He hires dudes that are like either Fran Brown, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or Dante Williams from USC. Yep. A 5-year track record of this guy signs superstars, say what you want about development, whatever. This guy signed superstars. You can argue about USC's defensive performances during Dante's time there, but he doesn't hire young prospect coaches that have never done it before.
Yeah, I mean, and Georgia fans like Hines Ward because he played at Georgia and he had a great career. But if Hines Ward was instead South Carolina Gamecock legend, like had a great career at South Carolina, had a great career in the NFL, was coaching high school and maybe some low-level college, and then Kirby Smart hired him, you guys probably would not care for that hire very much.
Yeah.
But because it's Hines Ward, like, of course, there's going to be some want there. There's going to be some, we want Hines Ward because we like, and he had a great season at Arizona State his first year there, but you got to have some sustainability to you. You got to have like some track record to you, because if it was anybody else, again, that you didn't know, the name you didn't recognize, you wouldn't want that person to be hired unless they had some proof that they can do it at this type of level.
When are you going to get off the Zen? Well, you know, I mean, shit. A man's got to have some type of vice. Have you met me in real life? I am a man of many addictions in my life. I started dipping at 15. You know?
Yeah.
Not great. Started drinking alcohol at 16. Started doing other stuff in college. And I think we're climbing on some. I think we've beaten some pretty hard ones.
Mm-hmm.
The nicotine pouch ain't really giving me sweats right about now. You know what I mean? We got rid of the tobacco out of the lip. I can't remember my last dip. I think state championship high school football. So back in December. I think we're 2 months into not dipping after starting that one at 15. Jake McCurry, I'll punch you in your throat if I ever see you. I swear, Jake McCurry, I will punch you right in the throat. So I don't know, Wesley Parker. I don't know when I'm going to get off the Zens. I don't even really like them, to be honest with you. They make me lethargic. They make me kind of like, I don't feel so good. My tummy hurts. But what else am I going to do? I do think I have a problem, and maybe one day I'll talk to a therapist about this. I don't like just being flatline Brooks. I don't like it. I like being on caffeine. I like being on nicotine. I liked a lot doing some of those other things that I did for a long time, but I thought they might kill me one day, so I stopped.
That's a good idea.
Right? I don't think anybody's out here saying that putting a little Zinsky in the upper lips going to give you a heart attack.
Yeah, I think
or die of cancer.
Doing Zen pouches is probably right now the best way to get your nicotine fix. You're not inhaling chemicals into your lungs and you're not doing tobacco. So like, I feel like you found a good middle ground.
We'll stay there. JS Web Music says, question, what are the thoughts on Ty Simpson as a player, as well as how he would mix with the type of offense that DeBoer likes to run? I think Ty Simpson is the type of quarterback that Kalen DeBoer wants. Mm-hmm. I think he wants a cerebral, accurate decision maker. That's what I think he wants. I don't think he wants some, like, if he goes the rest of his career with Michael Penix having the biggest arm ever at the position, I think he's going to be okay with that. Like, Keelan Russell's a really talented thrower over the football. I've seen Michael Penix throw it in person. I've seen Keelan Russell throw it in person. Michael Penix got one of them ones on that arm. All right, he throws missiles. Now, I'm not saying Keelan Russell doesn't. I'm just saying that what made Michael Penix great was the decision-making process. It had very little to do with, oh, my God, he's the greatest physical talent we've ever had. You didn't even find out that he was that physically gifted until the NFL draft process, when you found out he's a 4.4 runner. What? Out of nowhere. And you found out that he can really sling the piss out of the football. And everybody's like, whoa, where'd this come from? First-round draft pick.
I mean, the best thing, too, about Ty Simpson is it fits into Kalen DeBoer's mold, but also, like, I think that this is the type of quarterback that you Alabama fans are comfortable with. Like, of the guys that you guys list over the history of Alabama that you say, oh, this guy was great, we miss him, we miss so-and-so, like, this is the Mac Joneses of the world, this is the A.J. McCarrons of the world, like, guys that just kind of, they play within the system, they're accurate, and they move the sticks, man. I think that's what Ty Simpson is going to bring to Alabama if he is indeed the starter. So, like, you guys find comfort in that, and I think you're gonna find some comfort in Ty Simpson as well.
Also a tremendous leader, son of a coach, was at one point the highest rated quarterback to come out of Tennessee in like 15 years. Really, really talented football player that does all of the right things. I remember him at the Elite 11. Somebody asked him about his travel plans. He had basically shown up the day of. Flights got canceled. Elite 11 normally flies you in coach or in the second class, not first class, but second class. He got set in like the very back of the plane, had to take a red eye, showed up, big smile on his face. I'm just happy to compete. Just a real good dude. And you know me, love a good coach's son.
Yeah.
Love a good lunch pail every once in a while. Jacob Walters asks, who has the chance to be more impactful this year, Gabe Harris or Quintavious Johnson? Right now, both of them are projected starters.
You need both of them.
With Tyranningham Dawkins declaring early, Michael Williams leaving, Gabe Harris is the starting defensive end right now at the University of Georgia, is he not?
Yeah.
It's either him or Joseph Jonah coming off of an injury. Didn't play the last 9 weeks of the college football season last year.
Yep.
And if Gabe Harris isn't the starting defensive end, he's the starting jack. And if he's the starting defensive end, that means Quintavious Johnson is the starting jack as a redshirt freshman, having never played real minutes.
You need everybody in that room.
All of them.
Every single person.
All of them. Probably could have hopefully talked Sam and Pimba into staying, would have helped out a lot too.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
But I don't think they knew when Sam came and asked to go into the portal, I don't think they knew for a fact Damon Wilson was going to do what he did. You know, so you got one of those kind of surprise situations. The Damon Wilson loss is obviously the main problem there. Let's see here. What are your Tyler Atkinson recruiting predictions? So right now, I would say it's Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Auburn. That's what I got going on right now. I find it hard to believe Georgia will allow that football player to go somewhere else. You are setting a bad precedence if all it takes is, we can just throw some extra money at these guys and get them to not go to Georgia. You have spent 5 years recruiting Tyler Atkinson at the position that you are most known for in terms of you come here, you start, you going to play on Sundays. That would be a tough one. I don't think they're going to be able to lose it. I don't think they will allow themselves to lose that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is of all linebacker prospects, like this is the one that you do land of. He's an in-state guy. I mean, right down the road from your university. He's grown up with this pedigree. You've known about him for a long time. He's one of the nation's best. Like you land Tyler Atkinson. Feels like every single class. So it seems like this isn't one that you should lose.
Oh, what a spin from B. Schaefer. Nicotine pouches are actually healthy for you.
Ah, there you go.
The nectarine
make
of the
you feel
gods.
a little better.
Let's see here. Took me 30 years of cigarettes before I quit. Hell yeah, retired working, man. That'll do it to you. I have found that having worked a decade in construction, nothing will create habits better than construction. Construction work will have you out here addicted to caffeine, addicted to nicotine, and maybe some uppers as well.
Finding anything that will make it somewhat enjoyable.
Yeah, basically. Wow, back a day for 13 years. That's great. Is the Film Guy Network After Dark where we are finally digging into some of Rex Ryan's stuff? Probably shouldn't have read that one. Leave it to Justin. Leave it to Justin to get me. All I was looking for is question marks, and I found that one. Comparisons on similar type wide receivers on the roster, like Zacoby versus Branch and Nitro versus Taylor. So I think he's asking me to do player comps type deals like Colby Young to a CJ Wiley. I think what you're getting at is that there are 3 body types at the wide receiver position, X, Z, slot. That's what we got in professional and college football right now. X receivers north of 6'2", can isolate outside the numbers, can get vertically, can defeat man-to-man coverage at all times. Z receivers, all right, this is where I think, honestly, football has moved more towards every leader in the NFL is a Z receiver in the stats department. Justin Jefferson is a Z receiver. That's not an X.
No.
He doesn't line up in the 3-by-1 situations. He's on the 3 side most of the time. Malik Neighbors is a Z. Odell Beckham, when he was doing it, was a Z. What's his name? Jarvis Landry led the league in receptions for 3 straight years as a Z. Those are Z receivers. Lad McConkey is a Z.
Yeah, really the only ones that I can think of that are doing it at the X is Mike Evans is an example of this.
DK Metcalf.
George Pickens is doing it at X.
Yeah.
That's really about it, though, that I can think of right now. AJ Brown, I guess.
Yeah, he's an X.
Yeah.
But the Z is Devontae Smith on
Yep.
that roster. And he does really, really well in that system.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the 1,000-yard plus receivers, like I don't even know what I would classify Tyreek Hill as.
Anything.
All of it
Yeah.
is just a gadget. But yeah, most of the actual production nowadays is coming from the Z. And I think most of that is because we can get him closer to the football. Pass rush has become
Drake London. Shouldn't have forgot
Drake
that
London
one.
as
My
well.
bad,
Ohio
guys.
State apparently finalizing a deal with Matt Patricia. Just saw that pop. So that's cool. We got some debates about nicotine in the chat. Would Jaden Riddell get the nod over Ethan Barbour? Two different nods. One's a Y, one's an H. So I think your question there is, would Jaden Riddell get the nod over Oscar Delp? Will Jaden Riddell get the nod over insert inline tight end right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just on paper, yeah, he would, because he's been there a whole year.
Yeah.
Ethan Barbour just got there. So, yes, probably so.
If you were a coach, what offense/defense would you run? Defensively, I'd be a 4-2-5 mint football team. As long as I'm in the Southeast, if I were a Midwest football coach, I'd probably run in 3-3-5. The idea of finding the required zero technique that you need to play in a 4-2-5 mint basically means you need somebody who's big enough to play true zero, but athletic enough to maybe bump into a 3-tech if he has to do so, aka Jordan Davis. It's a really tough task on the recruiting front. So I would have questions and reserves about that, but I'd probably be a 4-2-5 mint front split safety defense. We're going to match coverages based off what we see on each particular side of the football field. We're not just going to be a cover 3 team. We're not just going to be a cover 4 team. We're going to be they got Twins bunch over here. We're going to play whatever we need to defeat that. They got a spread formation over on this side. We're going to play whatever we need to play over there. We're going to be a split safety, split coverage football team. Offensively, I don't know what I would be. I think I would probably be a little bit more proactive into leaning into being a pro style football coach, a balanced football team. I wouldn't be an air raid guy. I don't think I would. But if I were in high school, I probably would. If I were a high school football coach, we'd probably be an air raid team. I think it's easier to consistently throw 3-yard routes than it is to average 3.5 yards running the football. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably go with that. Let's see here. Who's the top 5 teams to watch as the maybe playoff teams that have not appeared in the playoffs yet? It's a very specific question.
Really dwindled down after this past season.
Like Ole Miss hasn't been in the playoffs.
Ole Miss, LSU. No, LSU's made it.
LSU hasn't made the playoff.
I don't know. I guess that's it from the
Mizzou
SEC.
hasn't made the playoff.
Florida,
like a Wisconsin, Nebraska. No,
gross,
nasty.
I don't know,
Michigan
man.
State. Didn't they make one though?
Yeah, they did. They got
14,
bounced.
right? They got pounced by Derrick Henry and the Crimson Tide. USC,
Made it.
They've made it.
Remember they had that goofy intro to the playoff? Remember?
No, that was a season kickoff game against Alabama.
Oh, you're right. That was week 1.
Yeah,
you're right.
USC hasn't made it because he got beat by Utah a couple years ago and lost in the Pac-12 championship
You're
game.
right.
But they're not close. Not even close.
No, I wouldn't put him in to watch territory.
I don't think anybody who hasn't made it's in this to watch territory other than like a mid-major that's going to get the auto bid.
Mm-hmm.
But most people are thinking Boise State's going to repeat.
Yeah, I guess
Interesting. Memphis.
Yeah, like
Memphis got a shitload of money. Memphis is the Texas Tech of mid-major football right now. They're just going to FedEx buy their way into relevancy is what they think is going to happen. But they actually got to do the results and win the football games. By the way, we had a big opening segment yesterday about how we are big into the anti-Texas Tech deep state. Got a few text messages about that one from the rest of the college football world. Valid.
All right.
We don't really get it either.
Okay.
Why is Mans getting all this pub? What is up with dude? Why is he won 8 games last year? What is up with this? Why is this guy talking like this?
Mm-hmm.
There's some anti-Texas Tech deep state within college football going around as well. So I was confirmed in my hatred of the Red Raiders yesterday quickly after the show. Let's see here. This comes from Judd. What win is more program defining to you? 2018 Rose Bowl or 2022 Peach Bowl? If you don't win the Peach Bowl, you don't win a national title.
Yes. Program defining though, like I guess it would have to be the Rose Bowl if you're like talking about what defined Georgia, like what was the moment where everybody was like, oh, this feels like a different type of Georgia all of a sudden. I think it probably was the Rose Bowl because, I mean, I think what was so monumental about the Rose Bowl wasn't the fact that you made a national title and that, but also the fact that you did so by getting in a shootout with Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield and that entire offense. And you came out on top with a team that really didn't have any explosive weapons at wide receiver. Like you had Javon Wims, you had Terry Godwin. But outside of that, it was you're leaning on Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, and you found a way to win a shootout in that scenario. So I think that was kind of a staple moment of the program in the sense of Kirby Smart knows how to win. This team is like they're legitimate now. They're going to continue to do this, and they have ever since. So I think that program defining, that probably was the biggest program defining moment.
We got some starter numbers being finagled by Alabama fans. Tyler says, does finding out Alabama has 9 starters on defense coming back change your season outlook? Hubbard and Jefferson took over for Saab and Lawson during their injuries.
Oh, so they're
he's counting the young guys.
Okay.
Look, I am bullish on the young dudes that they have, right? I think LT Overton's coming back this year as well for them. So that's big time. I mean, I thought he had a really good season this year out there at Alabama in the first year coming over from Texas A&M. The Deontay Lawson retention is insane to me. That's a tremendous thing for the University of Alabama coming up in this next season. I do like the young corner that finished the game off against Georgia. Jalen Mbakwe, obviously coming back after flirting with Ole Miss. So there's a lot of talent there. A tremendous amount of talent there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Quay Rousseau's still on the roster as well. So.
And was arguably one of the most dynamic football players prior to his injury. That watching him against Wisconsin before his ankle got rolled was like, holy shit, look what they got going on out here. They were doing really fun stuff with him. And then as he got banged up, it got a little bit more standard, if you will, in terms of defensive operations. Got a little tidbit for you, Jonathan. I'm probably going to disappear a couple weeks this offseason.
A couple weeks?
Yep. Well, just sporadic. A week in totality, probably. Okay. We do a lot of film work around here, and it's been a decade since I've been in actual meeting rooms. Can you believe that? Wow. It's been a decade since I've sat down and had actual like football coaches, not just me watching football coaches explain terminology and what it actually – decade away from the sport might as well be 35 years of evolution in terms of what they're actually calling things, how they're calling it, how they're coaching things, right? Like I found out a couple years ago that a school like Florida State, the offense that they run, they don't even use XYZHR. They use numbers.
Oh,
so-and-so's the 9, so-and-so's the 6, so-and-so's the 3. The hell are y'all talking about? I don't know. I have no idea. It's because it's been a while. So what I've been doing is reaching out to some staffs and just, hey, can I come in 24 hours, no cameras, just you won't even know I'm there. I want to take a notepad out and see what football looks like and sounds like nowadays. And we've had a couple of SEC programs already kind of, yeah, man, come on through. We love what you do. We'll let you come through for a couple days and maybe sit through an install or two.
Dude, that's sick.
That's sick as shit, isn't it?
Holy cow.
Yeah. So you won't ever get to know who they are. Well,
that's fine.
You will. But you won't ever get to know who they are. But yeah, if I disappear for a day or two, it's probably because I am in an SEC building somewhere just getting inundated with football knowledge.
I think that's about as valid as an excuse to be absent as it gets around here for this program specifically. Like, I'm just gonna go learn from the best coaches in the country for this sport. I'll be back. Okay, that's
I'll
fine.
be back.
No worries. Do
So,
what you got to do, dude. That's awesome.
I'm excited. It makes all of those years of running down sourcing and doing all the stuff that I do on the recruiting trail. It makes all of those things a little bit more worth it. And no, this is not going to be like the Josh Pate speaker series. I'm not going to talk to coaches. I'm not going for content. I'm going for education. So yeah, you guys will literally not know anything other than what I just told you. But I had to brag.
But when Brooks isn't here, you might know what's going on.
Yeah. When the boys out here disappearing for a while. All right, it's an hour and 5 minutes in. Let's make sure we get some of these super chubs. Can you please do it? Will Howard? We already did that. We already did the difference between Gunner and Pugga. I'm not in the mood to play college football 25. Are you?
No, not really.
I think I'm in the mood to kind of this one right here and let you go home.
Alrighty.
All right. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I love you. Bye.